Hello and welcome to the USA Volleyball Show podcast, the official podcast of USA Volleyball. My name is Stephen Munson, joined by my co-host Severin Lavenstein. Severin, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Stephen. What's going on?
Not much. I'm actually really excited. In a couple of days, I'm going to SLC for the SLC Showdown Girls National Qualifier. So excited to travel for that, and I've never been to Salt Lake City too, so I'm excited to explore a new city and get that under my belt.
How about you've never? We go to Salt Lake City every year. You've never been to Salt Lake City?
Somehow I have not been to that event.
Underrated food.
In the 11 years I've been here. Underrated food. All right.
Yeah, I mean, this will be my third year going now. I think we're like trading places because I'll be going out there for 18s. I think it is.
Yes.
Like I said, like we've mentioned before, all the events jumble around in my mind. But underrated food in Salt Lake City. Just walk around. A lot of fun.
Yeah, you might have to send me some recs, but I'll definitely be walking around, and I'll actually be going to some love matches too while I'm out there. League One volleyball matches. They have their weekend at Love Salt Lake. So I think it's Love Austin, Love Houston, and Love Madison in town. So we'll get to see a lot of good volleyball and get to see some of our national team athletes too while I'm there. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, shout out Coach Tama. We got Jordan Poulter and Haley Washington. This could be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm excited to see Tama, and one of my friends that I used to play a lot of volleyball with in Colorado Springs. He's now the assistant coach under Tama for Left Salt Lake. So excited to see him and catch up with him. It'll be fun.
There you go. Well, it's a Salt Lake City themed month, I feel like, or a Utah themed month. I'll be going out to Utah for a golf trip with some buddies of mine on Easter weekend. Then I'm back for a couple of days. Then I'm flying
You're not just
back out.
There?
I'm not just staying there. I'm back for a couple of days, and then I'm flying back out to Salt Lake City to take over for the coverage duties for that tournament. So Utah is the theme of April.
I was gonna say we might need to talk to USA Volleyball, see if we can get like a timeshare or something there. I feel like we're there all the time anyway, so might as well.
Absolutely.
Curious if you catch us up on the beach action. There's been a lot of great beach results lately and good tournaments from our athletes. Can you catch us up on that?
Yeah, it's actually really cool that you're talking to me about this today. I actually just got to chat a little bit with Kame Schalk while he was on the trainer table yesterday, talking about their great bronze that they had at Elite 16 Mexico. He and James Shaw, and it was so funny just listening to him. He and James were gassed afterwards. He said James could barely even stand up. He was having muscle spasms. I think there's a rule, I could be wrong here, so don't quote me on this, but I think there was a rule or is a rule that you can't have water on the podium at FIVB events, and at least for this one they were allowed to have it and kind of get back going. But just so much fun watching that relatively new partnership. I got to actually go out to the beach when they were training to go to this tournament and see those guys. I feel like I could say this about every pairing, but those two guys specifically, James and Kame, are the nicest people ever. Although they exchanged some chirps about the Four Nations tournament and how that went, with obviously Canada beating the U.S. for that hockey tournament. Such a great experience there. But no, really cool to see Kame get back on the podium. James, obviously, he does these amazing like fake sets, and then the pass. It's great high level stuff from them. Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft, I believe. I don't have this in front of me, so I'm all off the dome. But I think they got silver at this event. Obviously, we know how great they've been looking. And then TKN, which is now Taryn Brasher. I'm still getting used to saying the last name. Taryn, if you're listening, I'm trying. I'm getting it as best as I can, I think. And Kristen Nuss, they got bronze, I believe, if I have that all correct, from Elite 16 Mexico. So some fantastic results from our U.S. pairs. We expect nothing less, and they totally delivered there. Great start to the season. And we also had, I'm not going to even try to say the official name, but I will just say Futures Australia. We had Elena Chacon and Morgan Chacon taking gold. So some fantastic results from the U.S. on the beach side this past weekend.
Yeah, I just went to our Instagram page to confirm you got all those right. So well done. Nice. Speaking of Taryn, you'll have to get with Taryn and Kristen and ask, like, is it still TKN? Are they workshopping something else?
If you switch it. So if you do Taryn, Taryn, Kristen Nuss, I guess is kind of how you have to do that. There's so much branding on it. I don't know how you handle at this point. I haven't talked to their agent in a while, but I do a lot. So, Billy's going to have to fill me in on what the whole branding is for that now, but I think it's going to stay the same.
Cool. Yeah. I'm eagerly awaiting an update on that. I think it's, yeah, I think TK is just so catchy. How do you go away from that? But
Got to keep it.
got to keep it, I think. But cool. Well, yeah, thank you so much for catching us up on the beach here. Let's jump into the episode because we got a great one here, and I'm so excited to get to our interview. But before we get into today's episode, last episode we continued our USA Volleyball Regions talk. This time with Bayou Region Commissioner Angel Sims. We learned about Angel's background, her background in the sport, including her experience as an official. She also shares the growth of volleyball in Louisiana and her excitement to lead the Bayou region in her first year as commissioner. Don't miss it. Listen or watch now on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and usavolleyball.org. Severin, take it away with the men's college roundup.
Yeah, men's college roundup time. Your top 5 is as follows. Number 1, Long Beach. Number 2, UCLA. Number 3, UCI up 1. I'll tell you why in a second. And number 4, Hawaii down 1. We had a really great slate of matches towards the end of last week, which included Long Beach versus UCI. And in a big upset, UCI handed Long Beach its first loss of the season in only 3 sets. And that was on the road. That was in the Pyramid. It was an attendance record at the Pyramid, which I mean is really hard to do. That place sells out, it feels like, every other week. And then right on the heels of that, back-to-back matches at UCI, which I had the pleasure of going to. And before I go any further, a big thank you to the athletic departments of both UCI and Long Beach, incredibly accommodating to me in my coverage, and I really appreciate that. But we got to witness another great one. This time, Long Beach in 3 sets, defeating UCI, and the tensions were high. The excitement level was high. The atmosphere, I can't say enough about it. Unbelievable. That is how college volleyball, men's college volleyball, should be played, in a packed dome, in a packed atmosphere, and the Brent Event Center was rocking for that one. So that is once again your top 5. I've kind of already launched into your storylines, but that's really it. Long Beach, first loss of the season, and I can't say enough about how amazing it was to be there. If you're in the Southern California area, if you're in any of the areas with these top men's collegiate teams, you must go to these matches. They are not, you can't miss it. Want to spotlight Hyler Heno. He's your offensive player of the week at the time of recording for us. For the week between those 2 matches against Long Beach, he averaged 5 kills and 5.83 points per set. He makes that offense go for UCI, and he's going to be obviously a key factor for them. I've already shared my thoughts how I think he's maybe the best player in men's college volleyball at this time. So great to see him have another standout performance this past week. And one more shout out from me is to Loyola Chicago. I feel like they're not getting enough love right now for a 19-2 record entering this week at the time of recording. Number 6 officially in the polls, just 1 spot outside of that top 5. And they've really just they've done really well. They defeated number 7 CSUN in I think 2 matches ago. So once again, they are just really doing very well. So shout out to Loyola Chicago.
Awesome. Well, I will head in, since we have no Clarence today, I will head into Pro News with Hughes with me, Stephen. We're heading into week 14 of both League One Volleyball and Pro Volleyball Federation. This is the final week for Love as they're gonna begin their finals on Thursday, April 10th. Be sure to check USA Volleyball social media and our calendar at usavolleyball.org each week for schedule updates. Like I mentioned, this week is the last week of regular season for League One Volleyball. No shakeup in standings since our last episode. Love Atlanta clinched the number 1 seed in the Love for the Love finals beginning next week, again, April 10th. With that, they earned a bye into the semifinal round. Love Houston needs a win in their final match or a Love Madison loss to clinch the 2 seed and a bye for themselves. Love Madison kept themselves in the hunt with a 5-set win over Love Austin last week. Several records were broken in that match, including Annie Drew Schumacher tallying a league best 28 kills. She broke her own record that she set earlier this month. So that's super impressive for Annie there. Love Salt Lake and Love Omaha also tied for the longest set in Love history thus far, going 33 to 31 in the second set in favor of Madison. So super. I believe Love Madison's going to be in Salt Lake this week, so excited to see Annie. She's just been on a tear lately, I feel, so I'm excited to see Annie in person, and then just to see Love League One volleyball in person. I haven't been to a match yet, so I'm excited for that. The Omaha, switching over to the PBF, Pro Volleyball Federation, the Omaha Supernovas continue to hold the top spot in the rankings. However, Atlanta Vibe is red hot right now, and right behind them in the rankings. The Vibe jumped ahead of Orlando Valkyries to the number 2 spot since our last update, thanks to an 8-game win streak. They've pretty much won every match in March. I went back and looked. They lost on March 1st, but since then they've won every match in March, and yeah, super impressive to see. And they're just climbing the rankings because of that. The Orlando Valkyries are now 4th in the rankings, but share the same record, 12-8, with the Indy Ignite. The Ignite's setter, Sydney Hilly, member of the U.S. women's national team that won gold at the 2023 Norseca Pan Am Cup Final 6, earned the Pro Volleyball Federation Player of the Week honors after recording a season-high 68 assists in the Ignite's 5-set win over Columbus. A lot of great action there for the pro leagues. Continue to watch those. Look out for our schedule updates on social media and usavolleyball.org. And yeah, just go out and support.
And Stephen, really quickly, because I can't count to 5, just to jump back to the college roundup very quickly. I forgot number 3. So it's Long Beach, UCLA, USC at number 3, UCI, Hawaii. Just wanted to correct that.
Thank you for doing that. Slipped past me too. So thank you for going back for that. Now, in today's episode, we're excited to welcome Beach national team member Evan Cory to the pod. Evan shares his volleyball journey thus far, including finally being named to the U.S. Beach national team this year. He also talks about partners he's played with, including Alison Cerutti, aka the Mammoth from Brazil, and Bourne, and what he's learned from all his partnerships, and gives his take on the state of the men's beach game. This and more coming up, so let's get to it. Here's Evan.
Evan, thanks for joining us, man. Great to have you here with us. We start usually always by asking all of our guests how you got involved in volleyball. So why don't you tell us first how you got involved with beach volleyball?
Yeah, so I started playing beach volleyball first, unlike a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people start on the indoor side of things and then kind of work their way to the beach side. But for me, I started playing when I was about 14 years old. I was in New Orleans, so I'm from New Orleans, and grew up there and played at Coconut Beach growing up. My parents played in like these beer leagues. You know, a lot of people around the country probably know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a bar and grill attached to a bunch of random sand courts, a big old sandbox in the middle of a parking lot. And so my parents played in those. And just as a kid growing up, I played, you know, every sport under the sun and just loved competing. And one day finally got the chance. My parents needed a sub. I was always asking, I was like, please let me play, please let me play. And they're like, no, like they had like their adult friends and they were just going out and playing. And, you know, one day just sitting out there, finally got my chance. They had somebody not show up, and the love just grew instantly from there. You know, kept playing, started playing like 7 days a week, just going out whenever I could. And it kind of took over all other sports, and yeah, grew into sitting here today.
How did the USA experience start from you? Obviously, from playing in that format all the way to playing with us.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey, a long road for me getting to here, which is, you know, really cool to even be sitting here. I never would have expected in my journey that this was a part of it. My whole goal, you know, once I started competing, was to like one day qualify for one AVP, and that was like the entire goal. And I had a partner in that area. That was like our entire goal together. We unfortunately never achieved it together, but both achieved it separately, which is awesome. And yeah, like I said, I don't know really how. It just kind of feels like I kept grinding, and we just would take another step, and then would take another step and another step. You know, leading from, I think COVID was probably when like the beach side really started picking up for me after I finished college indoor. I really took that time. Everybody was just kind of sitting in their houses during COVID, and we thankfully had like those beach courts, right? And was really good friends with the owners. And it's private property, so there's nothing anyone can really tell you can or can't do. And I think beach volleyball was one of the best social distancing practices. Where's a lot of space in between us on the courts, and a lot of one-on-one work with my coach in Louisiana, Joey Keener. And it kind of just grew from there, to qualifying for the first AVP, to being a main draw player, to picking up somebody with international interests in Bill Kalinsky, who, showed me the kind of the ropes, went through the Norseca route, played a couple qualifiers, kept switching partners here and there, trying to find the right fit. And then, leading to, eventually that gold medal in China at the end of last year, that kind of put me in the position to be on the national team this year.
Two things that I want to hit on eventually is, one, that gold medal in China last year, and then also how cool it is to me that you've been able to be so successful with so many different partners. But first, I want to go back to Louisiana. Tell us about the volleyball culture in Louisiana. I feel like it's something that's really growing from maybe where it was even a few years ago. Obviously, my mind goes to like TKN and LSU beach volleyball, but just, for people who maybe aren't familiar, give us some insight on the culture there for beach volleyball.
Yeah, I think it's so cool watching, the growth of Louisiana volleyball as a whole. You've obviously got Taryn and Kristen doing it still from Louisiana, which is so awesome, and, should be inspiring for people around the country. And, I want to help include in that story, be like, hey, like, you can do it from other places. Like, I feel like most of my story was outside of California, and then moved here to kind of figure out the partner side of things. For them, they have their match made in heaven, and they've been able to make it work there, which I would love to have been able to done. But yeah, I think the culture there's always been a lot of volleyball in Louisiana. I would just say there's not like a ton of high quality volleyball, right? So the local open scene, we've got a lot of, solid players, but they're just not the California, level. Like I said, they have those beer leagues and stuff like that. There's, I think there's 5 beach volleyball complexes between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and then you expand out into Lafayette and Lake Charles, there's even more. So, beach volleyball is alive and well in Louisiana. I just don't think people know about it because it's like not a beach, right? You think California, Florida, you think all these like beachy places that are really good, but the culture is very much alive. And I think it's so cool for me to be able to see Kristen and I are the exact same age, both born in Metairie, Louisiana, and never crossed paths actually really at the juniors level, and like even coming up as far as like coaching or teams or anything like that. So it's really cool that, we've been able to both have a story out of New Orleans, Louisiana, and it shows that the quality and the depth of Louisiana is there without really having a common connection outside of that we played at the same place. That was pretty much it.
It's so cool for you to connect kind of in that way later on, and hopefully we'll see more players coming from not just Louisiana, but kind of all over the place where maybe there aren't just, beaches where that would be solely wherever everybody could come from. But to go back to your story, I mean, some people don't always just, get to see the grind that maybe some of us on the inside get to see every day. But one of the things I thought was so cool is being able to see your name on the official beach national team list. Obviously, we have the distinctions between A2, Talent Protection Pipeline, and for you to kind of have that name in green, that official beach national team member this year. What did that feel like for you? Was there any kind of announcement or notification, and just what were your overall thoughts to getting that kind of promotion, if you will, call it that, for this year?
I think for me, always like being in the gym the past couple of years and, really working with and against people in here. It hasn't felt like too big of a change, but I will say from the aspect of feeling a little bit more official, having a little bit more access to, some of the resources, it's definitely been super helpful, I think, so far for me. And a lot of the time it's felt like you have to figure out stuff on your own, whereas now, getting a lot of help from, all over, and being able to to work towards that and earn that has felt really cool. Like, no one really can take that from me and like, okay, well, I worked this hard and like now I've like earned these resources. So I don't really like, I feel like some people are like, oh, I don't want to bother this or that. Like for me, it's like, well, I worked really hard and like I feel like I've earned that chance and that opportunity. So it's just been really cool so far, and hopefully, get to grow with the national team and towards 2028, hopefully, can make it a great relationship that can turn into something, really good.
Let's go back to Challenge Haiku and China last year and just that whole process. Walk me through it from the start of the tournament to playing for the gold medal match and then eventually coming away with that hardware.
Yeah. To start, playing with Cody was absolutely awesome. Never had really gotten to play with him leading into that. We've kind of always talked about playing here and there, and finally getting to link up with Cody and, kind of having, just like a good friendship already from, knowing each other for years, playing, maybe some here one-off like fun stuff like, grass and fours and stuff like that, but never actually like getting into that serious competitive side with him. Those months leading up were really awesome, even though we didn't have a ton of time and, a ton of practices. He was still competing with Sean Cook in the AVP League. So kind of creating that dynamic and figuring out how to make it work in there was really interesting, really fun. And then, from day one of the qualifier all the way to the gold medal match, it felt like both of us are just grinders, right? So talking about earning it and, kind of going out and proving it on your own. I feel like we've both done that for a large portion of our careers and kind of carried that mindset into the tournament. There was a lot of times where we for sure thought we were out. Like, the qualifier, I don't think we even should have qualified. We were down 14-13 and we somehow pulled it out 16-14. Our first match of pool play against the French, same thing. Cody's dying on the court. It's like 95 degrees. There's some videos out there on my Instagram.
I remember watching it. I was like, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it to the end?
And so it just felt like, somehow we kept staying alive. We kind of made this like phrase that it's going to be really tough to kill us. We were just being cockroaches. It's really tough to kill a cockroach. They've been around for millions of years. And we're like, you know what? This week we're going to embrace that. It's going to be really tough to kill us. They're going to have to, throw some really big, heavy knockout punches. And I think, the gold medal match was a culmination of that. We're down, I believe 19-13 in the second set after winning the first set. We were down 19-16 as well. So just kind of showing that never give up, continuing to fight spirit and made it, and no one could kill us in that tournament. So yeah, we walked away with the gold, and that was, really, really cool. I think China presents a unique challenge that a lot of people don't realize at home, and the fact that the food can be a little tough there, the air quality, the heat. There it was also pretty windy, so there was a lot of unique challenges that it presented, and I think we were just able to handle it a little bit better than everybody else, and ended up with that gold.
Evan, we've talked a lot about your different partnerships, and I think one of the coolest ones last year was being able to see you with Alison and various different settings and tournaments that you guys got to play in. But what were some of your takeaways from playing with someone of his caliber?
Yeah, I mean, from talking, it's so funny now, like going on the world tour and things like that, everybody, it's like their number one question. It's like, how is it playing with the Mammoth? And being able to play with such a legend of the game, I think from talking to people, he's pretty solidly in the top 5 players of all time. And being able to take away that experience, going to Brazil for 3 weeks, training in his hometown, seeing how, he operates as a person, as an athlete, being able to see like the celebrity status almost of him, and like what I think we should be aiming for with the growth of beach volleyball. And I feel like what we can achieve in volleyball as a whole, which I think is kind of a focal point of a lot of volleyball fans, is to try and grow this sport. And being able to see that and kind of, witness how he handles it, how, he kind of hypes it up and kind of creates that, was really cool. I think on the court, just the demeanor, I think, was huge. Obviously, he's been in a ton of huge moments in his life, and kind of seeing how he handles the big moments was important. You know, how he handles struggle and then how he handles success. And, you know, I think that's really the most that I learned from him, was like how he carried himself as a person. I think if you talk to anybody that's ever played with him or that's close with him, like that would probably be like his best characteristic, is just like who he is as a human. Obviously, he's, you know, spectacular on the court and has all these crazy good attributes of, you know, just being literally a mammoth of a human, and, you know, 6'8" wall up there as a blocker. But I think the way that he carries himself and the way that he handles himself in all situations was really probably what I took out the most out of it. And definitely like something I want to emulate, even like off the court, you know, the way seeing him be a dad, how he's a dad and a father and, you know, a son, and he's a husband. Like he fills those roles so well, and like it feels like he doesn't leave any like cards unturned or stones unturned of like, you know, checking off the boxes. Like he really does puts in a lot of effort to make sure that everything is right in his life. And so that was really cool to witness.
With the specifics of what you're talking about with how he carries himself, is it sort of that he doesn't get sort of too high and too low? And when you're talking about how he handles his success, or because obviously on the court, I mean, I'd be intimidated being on the other side of the net from him too. So I'm just curious what more of the specifics.
I think like the way that he carries himself and the way that he handles himself is crazy. The way that he kind of phrased everything last year, he obviously knows like he's closing his career out soon, and the way that we were working towards things as a team, and it was like this moment is important, not for me, like talking about himself. He's like, this moment is important for me. It's important for you now. Like you're still have a lot more time left. Like you're going to the Olympics, and like he kind of put that in like my head, and, you know, put that confidence in there, which was really cool. Like going to his house and just like, he's like, kind of just casually, he's like, here's my gold and silver medal from the Olympics. And I was like, what? Like just kind of like brought it out like, oh yeah, like, you know, like if somebody was like, oh yeah, here's this picture from this one vacation, he was just like, oh yeah, here's these medals. Like it's kind of whatever. And then like being like, this is going to be you one day. I was like, whoa, like, you know, the way that like he's trying to instill that type of stuff in you and trying to give me that confidence was really cool. And then I think that shows that like somebody's never too high or too low. It wasn't like a, you know, look how cool it is, like these are my gold and silver medals. It was like, these are, you know, something that I worked really hard for, and like I believe that like you could achieve that. And like I was like, that's so cool. And like that was like, you know, one of a kind experience that not many people get to have.
So now shifting to this year, partnering with another accomplished player in his own right, Bourne. How did that come about? What made sense for that partnership? And what are you excited about for going forward the rest of this year with Tri?
Yeah, so partnered up with Tri pretty recently after the gold medal win. We talked the next week or 2 weeks after, and whenever I was in the Philippines, and we kind of decided on it then. I've always kind of thought Tri was a great player. He's just, you know, kind of in that same atmosphere of Alison, of like, you don't want to be on the other side of them when the score is 13-all. Like it's like, you know, those you feel like there's people that like you play against that they figure out ways to win, and I feel like Tri is one of those guys that I've always, whenever I've played against him, like we're always up and like by 1 or 2, and he just figures it out, and they figure out a way. And you know, so that was kind of like that initial spark, the initial interest, being able to watch him kind of growing up. And like coming into the tour, like he was kind of at the top. So being able to see that was definitely like intriguing. Somebody who's had a ton of experience, you know, with the national team and going through multiple Olympic cycles, you know, getting to compete at the Olympic Games, having all of these experiences was really cool to, you know, be able to partner with somebody who has that experience and has that knowledge and has been there and done it and knows how to, you know, do it the right way, like we're saying. I feel like, you know, I love, you know, buying into that process with people. And I think that's what I'm most excited for this year, is just we feel very bought into the process together as a team. And wherever that road takes us, could be to the top of the world. It could be grinding, through challengers and, making it into elites and, trying to qualify for world champs the best that we can and barely scraping it out. But whatever, that does entail, it just feels good. Like, okay, we've got like 2 guys that are going to go after it together, and, we're not leaving any of those stones unturned.
Definitely. This next question I've really been wanting to ask you. I've been so curious what the answer is. I got to cheat and look down at my notes a little bit. But so with both Alison and Tri, as we've talked about, they're very accomplished players on the back 9 of their career, maybe fair to say. With playing with veterans like that, first, like, how does a beach athlete know when it's time to sort of go call it towards the end and kind of end your career, if you will? I mean, just thinking an example, we've got Kame right now doing super well on tour with James Shaw. Looking last year with the Olympics, you have the Spain pairing, obviously not as young as some of the other guys out there, but competing at a very high level. When does an athlete for beach know that, okay, now is my time to sort of shift into that mentor stage? We're coming towards the end, because it feels like, to me, just from the outside, age is just a number sometimes.
Yeah, I 100% think it's just like a number, especially on the beach side. You look, we've had guys like John Hayden who, competed until he was 50 years old. Jake and Phil both competing into their 40s and qualifying for the Olympics. So I think it's more of a personal feeling, right? Like a lot of from what I was hearing from Alison is it's like, I've had my time, I've done a lot of grinding, and I just want to enjoy being with my family now. Like, that's his big thing. For Tri, I think there was like this renewed sense a little bit after last year. I think, trying to qualify for the Olympics is a really tough journey for beach volleyball. I mean, you're going for 18 months straight, not stopping and just going all out, doing the best that you can. And if it works, then, you get to sit on the top of the mountain and really enjoy the view. And, if not, like, it feels like, wow, it was a long 18 months and like you feel pretty burnt out. And I think that's kind of how he felt after, last year, him and Kame, unfortunately not, getting to that top and just missing out. I think he was like ready for a little bit of a break to kind of step back. And then like coming into this year felt like a little bit more renewed. Like he just needed a little bit of time to like kind of refresh, because the mental toll, I think, is where things start to weigh mostly. Obviously, you have a physical lifespan, but, guys playing into their 40s and 50s, like, they're not at their physical primes anymore, and they're still able to do it. I think, starting to have done this more and more, it is the physical or the mental toll that takes the biggest hit. And, paying the price every day and going out and, okay, well, like, we got to get ready for preseason again. We've got to grind. Like, how do we get through this, season grind? And it always feels like you're grinding through. It's like, you have these little moments of, being on top and feeling really good about it. But a lot of it is like being down in the trenches, getting down and dirty. And, doing that for 15, 20 years is really tough. And I think that's kind of where guys are like, all right, time for me to step back. I don't need to be doing this anymore. Most guys get some families and, want to start enjoying the time with the kids and their wife. You're missing, if you're going and competing and trying to qualify for the Olympics, you're on the road, for weeks at a time. Like, we were just on the road for 2 weeks in Mexico, and, Tri's got a 2-month-old. And so it's like, okay, well, when does that become the trade-off? It's like, okay, well, I'm missing my kid's entire life, and like, I'm going to be like kind of like an absent parent. Am I going to be there for my wife? Like, when does that trade-off become more of like, okay, let's start focusing either more AVP and domestically, or, let's just kind of take a step back totally.
So it seems like they've talked to you about it, which is great that they're so open about it too. I'm also wondering, why is it important for a player on the rise like yourself to partner with an established veteran, a pro's pro, like these two that you've partnered with? Because obviously sometimes we see now, maybe more often, the college partnerships continue afterwards, or people within our USA system partner together, all of which have a positive effect. But why is that veteran and more younger player partnership so important?
Yeah, I think kind of how I was saying with Alison last year, just seeing how he operates in those bigger moments, right? Like you step onto that next stage, like how do you compose yourself? Having somebody who has been on that stage before to like help be that rock. In the last Elite, I don't know where I was at mentally, but like I kind of was like freaking out. Like I was like I don't know why, but like, I mean, I've only competed in a handful of Elites. Like this was only my second one, and I was like, felt like we were right there to be able to do it. And being 16-14 in the third, you are right there to do it. And so it felt like a big moment for his, try. It's like, well, this is, just another Elite. Tries 1 Grand Slams when that was still a thing, which was basically the Elites back in the day. So like he wasn't even qualifying, he was winning that whole tournament. So, having guys that have been there, done it, going throughout a season, we talk about that grind. They've been there, they've done it, they know how to get through it. They know, when to push and when to maybe pull back a little. And, learning all of those things, really taking it as a learning experience and how different people operate and kind of putting your own spin on it. I feel like I'm starting to get to a point where I'm coming up, but at the same time now I feel like I'm almost at that veteran stage. Like there's a little bit more to learn, and then like, okay, like now I feel comfortable with who I am. This is how I operate. This is what I need. But being able to have those guys to kind of look at before you that like, okay, how did they succeed? How did they do it? How did they reach the top of the world? Being able to take all those little bits and pieces and kind of put it in your own little world of how are you going to succeed, I think is invaluable, because you can't replace what somebody else has done to get to the top. You can kind of try and figure it out on your own. It's going to, be more difficult and be untested, but, being able to see somebody who has done it, okay, well, I can take that from you, and then I can take that from you, and then at the end of it, piece it together a little bit better than somebody who's maybe like, I still not sure.
Definitely. Our listeners will be able to see it all throughout this season, but just for the sake of telling us anyway, what is it about Try's game on the court that complements yours well? What do you guys feel like is your strength as a partnership? Give us some of the nitty-gritty X's and O's of your new partnership with Try.
Yeah, I think the past 2 weeks in Mexico were definitely like a good test for us of like learning. I think we tried not to have expectations as athletes and, try to like just be where we are. And, but I think our expectations were a little bit higher for what our results were and what we thought we were capable of to start the year. So I think that was, a really good, like I said, test for us that we're going to kind of move and evolve forward with. I think we're still trying to figure out each other's games. How do we interact in the game? How do we handle each moment? Is there something that when somebody's struggling that we need to do to help and things like that? I think, piecing that together will be good in the future. But I think as a team, where we started to see things click is like we can be super fiery, and if we catch fire, like we can take off and run. We also are a team that's like just not going to, like kind of that same mentality that Cody and I had in China is like, we're not going to give up. We're not going to, ever lose a match by a lot. We're going to always grind and make it a close match. I think we've showed that already. Like we kind of got handled in the first set of that Elite and snapped back, kind of brought it back to them. And for the most part of the third, we're still handling it to them. And then kind of got into that dogfight, ended up losing 16-14. Same thing in the Challenger, 3-set loss. And then our other loss was 23-21. So, getting games back into workable places. I think that's kind of where our strength is going to lie, is going to be like, it's going to be really tough to beat us because we're just not going to give up. We're never going to, just let you have the game. And I think kind of complementing each other as a team, I think something that we're still figuring out in like one of those areas that, we're still working towards. I think whenever we're at our best, we're going to be a really, really tough side out team. And I think we're going to be a really tough serving team.
Yeah, I think you're also being modest because after seeing one practice, I'm pretty sure you somehow found a way to hit harder too, which is like, I didn't even know that would be possible for you, but it's amazing. I need a radar gun on that one. But I want to shift gears now, Evan, to something that you were mentioning a little bit earlier. I want to kind of dive deeper into. I would like your take on the state of men's beach volleyball in the U.S., more so thinking from the ground up. And if I can inject a little bit of a story beforehand, I just remember after Paris listening to some of our athletes talk to the media saying, feels like there's been a little bit of a shift to where other countries are now kind of leading the pack if we're looking purely from a results-based standpoint from Olympics past. Obviously, you know, we can all look at the standings and in the World Tour and the world rankings, but what is your take on that system in place, on the state of it? And the second part of that question is, what can the U.S. do to kind of get back to leading the pack?
Yeah, one, I think the toughest part of things is acknowledging, and we aren't the best anymore. On the women's side, you know, we're still at the top. On the men's side, we've gotten passed up. You know, I think we had a really great generation, like the Phils and the Jakes. I mean, you go look up on the wall here, and they're both on there 4 times. That's 16 years of greatness, you know, and you take a Rosie, and he's up there 2 or 3 times. Casey, you know, these are all guys that they're, you know, mid-40s now, and so for a long time, better part of 15 to 20 years, they were kind of running the show. And I think a little bit of that, you know, they're at the top, they're competing for the top is kind of, there's this like little lost generation, I think, you know, that kind of got lost in those shadows. They didn't get the chance to feel like what it is to be at the top and to really be that competitive. And, you know, they're stuck in that middle ground for a long time. And I think for a second, USA Volleyball, we're living high, we're living pretty, because, you know, we were. And I think we also have acknowledged as like an institution that we aren't the best anymore, that, you know, we need to do better. There's, you know, programs that are being put in place now. I think on the men's and women's side, there's now a development group that was kind of absent for a little bit. I think the next step would be trying to do it at like a younger level. It's obviously tough as at the US. I think, you know, we have the pipeline, the talent development pipeline, the NTDP. But we have so many athletes, right, that are so good versus looking at these other countries. Basically what they're doing is they have 4 to 6 athletes, and from like the age of 15, they're like, you're next. And like they kind of develop at a young age and put a lot of resource and time into like 4 to 6 athletes, whereas it's kind of tough in the US. You know, we have so many athletes that are so good, and it's so tough to project like who's going to be good at that, what level. I think, you know, on the women's side, having this development program after college is great. You know, like, hey, you were at the top of the college game. Like now, like, let's keep that going and rolling. You know, I think college is a great feeder system for the professional side on the women's side. I think on the men's side, that's where like our challenge lies, is like, okay, how do we start getting these guys at like 18, 19, 20 years old to really start committing to the beach? Because you look at most of the rest of the world and these guys are the top of their games at 25 years old. You look at Norway, they're 27 and 28, I think. You look at Sweden, they're like 23 and 24. They've got a new Swedish team who's about to be unreal. They're 18 and 19 years old. And so it's like, you know, how do we catch up and like play that catch up game early on? Because a lot of like the stuff is built into us at that age. That's where a lot of our learning occurs. Obviously, we're still working on things here and there at our level, but early on, it's like, okay, we're developing and like your brain's still learning a lot more. You're not going to teach that old dog a ton of new tricks. You know, we can make small changes and we can, you know, make modifications, but to completely change the way that we think about the game and do this and that is really tough. So I think it is really going to come from that side of things. I think anywhere in between 16 and 22, like if we can really make that age group solid and like kind of really create this good pipeline coming up, then like I think we'll be right back where we need to be, because, you know, I think we have, like I said, we have that bigger pool to choose from. We have, you know, the ability to go and get better athletes. We're still, I think, some of the most physically gifted on tour. I don't think there's many people that are like that much more physical than people in the US. It's not like we're lacking from that side. It's almost like that rep side of things, getting onto the world tour early, being able to see what it feels like, being in those moments, like I said, with Alison and Try was, where I was at 27, he was winning those tournaments at the top of the world and already kind of had that growing up experience, versus for me, it's kind of been a little bit more delayed. Alison, he got on the world tour at 18 years old and he's able to feel those moments. So like when you feel comfortable in those moments at like your physical prime, then that's where I think like you have the physical meet the mental, and like we're just a little bit more behind there. I think we're, Try, Came, Chase, Miles, a lot of these guys are really good athletes still. They're just not at their physical primes anymore, but their mental is so awesome because they've been doing it for so long.
All right, Evan, I got to dive into your personal life a little bit. You're engaged to Savvy Simo. It's such a cool thing to see, two of our athletes. And frankly, I feel like, a lot of our athletes kind of find each other here, which is so cool. But what is that relationship like when you both are national team athletes and you're on the road so much? And just first off, I'm getting ahead of myself. How did you two meet and start dating?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is obvious there. Volleyball. We met at a tournament. She was right out of college. I think we were both dating somebody at the time, and we just kind of met each other in passing. Then later on, hung out and kind of just grew from there naturally, seeing each other more and stuff like that. But I think having somebody that's in the same position as you, we've talked about that grind of beach volleyball and just how tough it can be at times, I think is super helpful. I think it's awesome that I have somebody that like truly understands like what's happening in my life. Like if I'm like, hey, I got to leave for a month, they're like, okay, then like don't question it at all. Versus you're like people are like, just wait, they don't quite understand the job. They don't quite understand, even friends, right? Like back at home, like, wait, what do you do? I don't really get, like, how, like what? Like you just leave the country for a month and just keep going and playing? And like, yep. Like I spent more time in a hotel or an Airbnb last year than I did in my own apartment. And that's so, I think having someone that understands that is really beneficial. At the same time, I think it can be really tough because you're both in that pressure cooker. You're both in that grind all the time. You're both tired. It makes it like, somebody's not doing well. It's really easy to, kind of have a bad day, and it's easy to snap on each other at times. But at the same time, I think that having that person that understands at the end of the day really just makes it worth it. Because this is both what we love. We both love the sport. We both have these aspirations, and having somebody to kind of talk through situations, live the ups with, live the downs with. And they really understand the ups and downs of it is really awesome. Being able to travel on the road, we get to go and, see some really cool things around the world that most people probably don't ever have the opportunity to do. It creates a really unique opportunity, when we're in Morocco and we get to go ride camels together. Like, not a lot of people get to do that. So it does create that really cool opportunity for us to go and do and see really cool things from around the world. But I'd say, every relationship has its ups and downs based off of what everyone does. But I think, having somebody that understands the job definitely is beneficial for us as beach volleyball athletes.
How much is volleyball discussed in the home life away from the sand? Is it, if you talk about volleyball, you're sleeping on the couch?
Oh, no. I mean, I think, we're both close to each other's situations. We both very much understand, like, it's not a very big community, right? There's about 40 people that come in here and we all know each other very well. So, you understand what's going on in the news. You understand, okay, well, we're really struggling. I think if anything, most of the time when we talk about volleyball, it's like our struggles and like, either venting or, kind of discussing like, hey, what's the best plan forward here? Obviously we both understand the situation. I think that's a benefit, right? Like we talked about understanding that situation. Hey, like, I'm in the middle of this partner switch, should I be going to this tournament? Should I be playing with this person? What do you think is the right move here? And being able to bounce those ideas off of somebody, and then also just kind of somebody who knows what's going on, them being able to hear it. versus, if I talk to my mom or dad or, whoever else I'm close to, whatever friends, like they don't have that same grasp of the situation. So having that person to kind of bounce back and forth off of is really helpful in those moments.
So cool. Evan, the last one, I'm not going to be able to let you get out of here without answering the question of the origin behind the blue nose paint. And is it zinc oxide? Is that what it is?
It
and
is.
Just how did that start? We've come to know you for that. Is it still, it's still every tournament, right?
Every tournament.
Yeah, I thought we were still going to see it for this year, but glad to confirm that. What's the origin story?
Yeah, so back during COVID, was playing, the grassroots tournaments where you're starting at 8 a.m. and you're finishing sometimes at 2 a.m. So you're out in the sun for a lot of the day. And it didn't matter what sunscreen I put on. I tried a ton of different brands. I tried reapplying. My nose would just always peel after tournaments. And, just like being real, is like, I don't want skin cancer at like 25 years old. So I knew, obviously, you see lifeguards and they've got the chalky white nose that they always put on. And I was like, okay, let me just look up zinc. I knew it was like zinc oxide sunscreen. I was like, let me look up zinc oxide sunscreen. And so I always wore a blue hat. There's like pictures of me since I was like 15, 16 years old when I started playing. I always wore like that backwards blue hat, that like teal colored hat, and kind of became my trademark then already, just the hat. And so the first website that popped up was Zinka, Zinka. And they had like 30 different colors. And I was like, well, why don't I just match the nose to my hat? And did it. And then right out of COVID, there was a lot of these grassroots tournaments. And it was like one of the first ones that was like kind of nationally open. People were traveling from California, the East Coast, from the South. And so like it kind of like was a culmination of like, there's like 48 teams playing. And a lot of that like, fringe qualifier level on the AVP, a couple AVP main draw guys, and we won the tournament. And everybody's like, who's this kid with the blue nose? And so I was like, well, guess the blue nose is gonna stick.
There you go. That's such a cool origin story to it. I mean, as with our conversation today too, I mean, you can combine that with the Cockroach t-shirts, honestly, and now we've got a full persona for you, another alter ego that we can have. But Evan, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. Just so cool to hear all of your insight. We're looking so much forward to watching you this season. Where can everybody follow you, stay up to date on everything going on in your world when you're away from this podcast?
Yeah, the main place that everyone can follow me is Evan Cory Volley on Instagram. And then I also just got new merch that everybody can go buy their own blue hat with my logo on it. I don't have the sunscreen for sale yet. But on evancoryvolleyball.com, I just got some t-shirts and hats up on there. So yeah, if you want to go and support, that would be the best two places.
Awesome. Everybody go check out Evan's stuff. Evan, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you.
So great to have Evan on the pod. Just was really happy to be able to speak to him just on so many different topics, Stephen. And one of my favorite ones that I just got to really enjoy hearing his perspective on was all that talk about, partnering with different athletes. I mean, Evan has been able to partner with a lot of, athletes throughout his career, whether it's AVP, whether it's internationally, and just hearing his perspective on those partnerships and how they've helped him, I think is really insightful. Beach partnerships, we know there's such a complex dynamic sometimes. And even getting to partner with some legends like Alison and Try, I think that's such a cool experience for Evan.
Yeah, I think it was great for you to point out that he's had so much success too, even though he's been switching partners over the years through his grind and his beach volleyball journey. But like you mentioned, Alison, I think that was one of the standout ones for me too. Such a cool experience for him to get to go to Brazil for 3 weeks and just see Alison train, and just like the stature that he holds in Brazil, literally as a mammoth of a man. But and then go into his house and him just pulling on his medals and just kind of instilling that mindset that he's going to be an Olympian. Like just that's his goal. He's going to do it. And just his work ethic and his grind is going to take care of that for him. So I thought that was really cool. And then I had no idea that him and Kristen Nuss were from the same city. And was it New Orleans? Or-
I'm not even gonna
us.
attempt the pronunciation in Louisiana. When Evan said it, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness he said it, because if I had tried to say it, that would not have been the correct pronunciation.
Okay.
But yeah,
So not
I
New,
really
not New Orleans, but another city. Yeah. Got it.
I really think it's neat, and I said this to him in the interview, but how you're getting a lot of athletes from outside of Southern California. Obviously, being here, you get to see how big the beach volleyball culture is. But I truly was interested in to know how it's growing in other areas, and especially with somewhere like Louisiana, where you are kind of in that area near water, but even some other places where you're pretty landlocked, you're getting more beach volleyball coming up. And I think that's so neat to have athletes coming from Louisiana, where it's maybe not the Southern California pipeline that we typically are seeing in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, and really quick to add on to that too, I love that we've had back-to-back episodes of Louisiana volleyball too, kind of two different perspectives. Angel Sims, our last episode, from her commissioner, kind of a leadership role in the volleyball community in Louisiana, and then now with Evan as a pro athlete from Louisiana, and just those two perspectives, and just getting their view on the growth of volleyball in Louisiana thus far. So I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. And just one more thing is I'm just really excited to see Evan with Tri this year on the Beach Pro Tour. Evan's such a great dude, and he's such a hard worker. It's awesome to be able to see how much work everybody puts in the when it's on the sand, in the gym, and Evan is one of those guys, and he does it the right way, I really think. And I just wish him nothing but the best this year. I'm really, really excited to see him on the Pro Tour with Tri. And Stephen, one more thing I wanted to add from Evan that I neglected to talk about in the interview, but wanted to make sure we include. And I have a text from Evan right from him. So wanted to talk about just the mentoring that he does. Evan gives back to the next generation of junior athletes. And so this is directly from him. He does online one-on-one mentoring with junior athletes, going over recruiting, mindset, nutrition, injury prevention, and film review, with the goal to get athletes prepared for the next level before they actually reach that level. And if you're wanting to know more about that, you can head to his website, evancoryvolleyball.com, all lowercase, all one word. So really glad we could include that. And once again, thank you so much, Evan, for joining the pod. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to watching you compete this year.
Continuing to move things along here. Let's jump into the upcoming junior event schedule.
You got a lot of them here.
Sorry, West.
So take a breath. Take a breath. Get ready.
I do. Here, let me get a drink of water while we're live here. The Far Western Girls National Qualifier, weekend 1, April 4th through the 6th in Reno, Nevada. Weekend 2 of that event will be April 11th through the 13th. The STVA Junior Beach Spring Qualifier number 7, April 4th in San Antonio, Texas. The number 8 of that event will be April 13th in San Antonio as well. The Lone Star Classic Girls National Qualifier, weekend 1, April 5th through the 7th in Dallas, Texas. Weekend 2 will be April 11th through the 13th. The Salt Lake City Showdown Girls National Qualifier, weekend 1, April 5th through the 7th in Salt Lake City, Utah. I will be at that event, like I mentioned before, and so will Clarence. Will be there too. So if you see us walking around, come by and say hi. We'd love to meet you. Weekend 2 of the Salt Lake City Showdown will be April 11th through the 13th. The Chesapeake Spring Beach National Qualifier, April 5th through the 6th in Clearbrook, Virginia. Carolina Flyers Beach Regional Qualifier, April 5th in Pinehurst, North Carolina. The Northeast Girls National Qualifier, weekend 2, April 11th through the 13th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Show Me Girls National Qualifier, April 12th through the 14th in Kansas City, Missouri. The Old Dominion Spring Beach National Qualifier, April 12th through the 13th in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Good luck to all those competing for all upcoming events, and how to register, visit our website, usavolleyball.org. Now, onto the pro side of things. Take it away, Severin.
Pro events, we've got the Norseca Playoff number 1, April 4th in Manhattan Beach. I'll be there, so come say hi if you're coming out to the beach. Beach Pro Tour Futures, April 8th through 11th in Thailand, and then the Beach Pro Tour Elite 16, April 9th through 13th in Saquarema, Brazil. And League One Finals, April 10th through 13th in Louisville, Kentucky. Crazy that we're already at that part of the schedule, but it's coming up. And Pro Volleyball Federation continues their schedule through May. And if you need a refresher on when all of this is happening on your calendar, you can head to our calendar and check the USAV socials. That's all at usavolleyball.org and USA Volleyball on all of the social media channels.
As always, if there's a topic you want us to talk about, or a guest that you'd like us to have on, whether that's a national team athlete, club coach, junior athlete, official, anyone in our sport, we want to hear it. You can email us at the USAB show at usab.org. Let us know how much you're loving the show. And reminder, new episodes drop every other week. And until next time, you're listening to the USA Volleyball Show, the official podcast of USA Volleyball.
This has been the USA Volleyball Show with Clarence Hughes and Stephen Munson. Produced by Curtis Ward. Our content producers are Severin Labenstein and Laura Fawcett. Our marketing lead is Bree Jaycox. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to rate and review. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the USA Volleyball Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.